As you can see, I'm sitting here in a recording studio, the Blue Frog recording studio. Now, Indian music is going places, quite literally. In fact, what with A.R. Rahman winning the Golden Globe Awards for his original soundtrack for Slumdog Millionaire. Now, we thought it's the right occasion to get you inside a music studio with a very talented Indian music composer. Our man in spotlight today is Dhruv Ghanekar. Now, Dhruv is the guy who composed, along with his partner in crime, Ashu, one of the earliest cult songs of our generation. Check that out.
Over
the last decade or so, Dhruv, along with Ashu, has composed about 3,500 ad jingles.
Something like that, on last count.
Very recently, last year, he also composed the music for Drona, the mythological drama by Goldie Behel. And now, the most recent activity with which you're hitting airwaves is your latest album, Distance. What is that all about?
Well, it's kind of my entire journey as a musician from when I started playing music, and it's been an interesting journey because I listen to all kinds of music, not just a particular type of music. I love listening to jazz as much as I love listening to Indian classical, as much as film scores, and as much as whatever, everything else thrown in the mix.
Okay.
So I have a pretty varying mix of musical tastes, and the album kind of reflects.
You've got a pretty funky setup over here, but there are like zillions of gadgets here, like hundreds of knobs here on the music console. This is completely not what I had expected from a recording studio. I just thought there'd be a nice mic and a guitar and a keyboard, and that's it.
Well, no, actually, the audio technology as per se is probably up there with space technology in terms of, seriously, I'm not kidding about this. It's pretty advanced because of the amount of, research that goes into creating these products, and all of these are really incredible products and little toys, as we call them in our audio industry, to enhance and to make what you do sound better.
Okay, now which is why we thought Dhruv is the right guy to take you through the whole process, where right from ideation to the stage where that final sound is printed on a CD. He's going to take us through the entire process of how a music single is born. I'm guessing there are a lot of stages involved. So what's stage number one?
So the first stage really for me is, ideating and coming up with a nice, interesting idea for a song. The case in point is what we're going to do actually today as an exercise is take one of the songs that is on my album, Distance. It's a song called Conscious, and sort of retrack and look at how that song was actually created. It came up in a really interesting way. I was on my way back from a holiday, and on the flight I had this idea, for the riff, which is a guitar riff. And as soon as I landed, I ran straight to the studio, early in the morning. It was like 7:38 in the morning, and I put this idea down. And I was so excited because I was just fresh from this holiday, fully recharged.
Okay.
In this case, however, I think I kind of finished pretty much the entire tune in one day.
Yeah?
Yeah. For example, the song that we're talking about, Conscious, it started off with like this idea that I had. So that was the idea for the song.
Okay.
And then I had this line which is kind of a shloka. So it's so. Om Namaha. Om Namaha. That was like kind of the first idea. So what I did was basically I just put this riff down.
Okay.
Then the next stage after your initial ideation is actually putting the little pieces together in what you call arranging.
Arranging.
So, yeah, arranging is the next stage where you take little big bits of each section and you start creating whole sections for the song.
And this arranging bit that you spoke about, where does that happen? Does that still take place on your guitar or your keyboard, or do you switch to your computer?
It usually happens on the computer. So when I finish putting down entire sections, then I'll decide, or a lot of times, how the sections will sort of flow into each other are kind of already pre-decided by the virtue of the fact by how the earlier section ends.
When we are shifting to the computer, why don't you take us through what kind of rig do you have? What kind of setup do you have? I see you are an Apple user.
Yeah, been a Macoid for the last 10 years. It's a very stable and very intuitive, workflow environment to work in. I think they make great software. They make really the fact that first of all they make the hardware and the OS makes a big difference in how how the way the machine operates.
Okay.
Also, I think their OS and at least the last few OSs are so fantastic and they're so simple and they're so intuitive. I really can't go back to working on a PC. sorry.
Okay. So what kind of setup do you have here? You have an Apple Heart, which is the CPU.
Yeah. It's an 8-core machine with 8 gigs RAM, and it's a 2 terabyte hard disk. So
That's hardcore.
It's a pretty nice, it's a well souped up machine.
What about the software that you use for arranging or working on most of your tracks or compositions? What software do you use?
Well, I use Logic, which is again an Apple software now.
So if any budding musician was to invest in a computer, would you advise an 8-core processor, an 8 GB of RAM, and a Mac essentially? Can one not work around a Windows PC?
No, of course you can. I wouldn't recommend it, but of course you can.
Okay.
Point is really what what
you're comfortable with.
What you're comfortable, what your budget is. I think it all depends. I think a 4-core or a 8-core machine is great to have because it depends on what kind of music you're doing first of all.
But a quad-core is good enough to start.
Yeah, quad-core is great. The new laptops are fantastic. They're great for ideating and putting down.
MacBook Pros.
Yeah, they're great.
What's the third step?
The third stage is actually recording. In this case, there was a couple of lines that I was hearing that were played by a Carnatic violin. So I called in a violinist and I got her to duplicate the ideas.
Okay.
Then the flute was again sort of played live by this fantastic flautist Ashwin. And the voice was, of course, recorded by Nandini. So I got her in and recorded with her.
Okay.
A lot of times, when I'm recording, I'll be arranging, so that also can happen sometimes. So it really depends.
So what would you actually advise people to have? What's a good brand of speakers to have at home? Even otherwise, to listen to music on, or just listen to the rough draft of your music?
The ones that I have in my house are these ones called MSP5s, which are made by Yamaha.
Okay.
Great reference monitors for home. Really nice, and they're really compact and nice, cute-looking things. You can put them up on a desktop, and they're really punchy. I like them.